Hello, Seahawks, and welcome to another interview with an artist. I'm Hunter Jones. I currently serve as the 2020-2021 Boseman Gallery intern for Campus Life. I work to ensure operations in and around the Ann Flack Boseman Gallery run smoothly so that we can bring you, our students, staff, and local community such wonderful exhibits like the one we're currently running right now, which is Passing It On. This exhibit that we're looking to talk about today is very special, and that is a celebration of one of our very own professors, Andi Steele. Andi is the recipient of the UNC Board of Governors 2020 Award for Excellence in Teaching. She, along with 16 others from their respective public universities all throughout North Carolina, received this award for their extraordinary contributions. This exhibit is a collection of sculptures and works by students, past and present, of Andi's. You really get to see where each of their individual styles and themes comes out, while also seeing where they've drawn from Andi's teachings. So I've gone on long enough, and I think it's time we hear from the woman of the hour herself. Hi, Andi. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right. We'll just kind of jump in with an easy first question. And basically that's, can you give our viewers a quick description of what exactly it is you do at UNCW? Say, for instance, I had never met you before. How would you explain to me what exactly it is that you do and why I should care?
Well, I teach sculpture and 3D design in the Department of Art and Art History. I've been here for 14 years now and have been developing the program throughout that time. When the students move up into beginning and intermediate and advanced sculpture, we do a lot of metal fabrication, but we also carve and cast and use non-traditional sculpture materials. We do a little bit of everything.
That's interesting to me because I went through your kind of your award statement, if you will. It was talking about the kind of methodology and your philosophy, and it seems like you're very hands-on, like you like to get students very involved in the process and kind of throw them into situations they may not be too familiar in.
Well, I do think that it's important, especially when you're working 3D, but really, I mean, in art in general, to get your hands on different materials and learn different processes and use different equipment. So even as early as the 3D classes, students are learning how to use wood equipment and drills and saws and, you know, things that some people have never touched before. I mean, some people are familiar, but most people are not. But I'm a big believer that you can't really make work if you don't know how to use the equipment and work with the materials. And then as I move through the different levels of class, you know, the amount of equipment and processes and techniques increase, and we move into welding and plasma cutting and more extensive carving, you know, all kinds of different things. But yeah, I'm definitely a hands-on person. And I believe that you should touch your work when you make it, if at all possible. And I think there's more joy in that. So I try to instill that in my students really early.
Can you give me some background on kind of what led you to teaching? What were you kind of doing before you started, and what kind of made you say, maybe this is something I'd like to help others kind of learn as well?
Well, when I was in graduate school, I had the opportunity to teach as a graduate student, and I really enjoyed it. And I have been fortunate to have some really good instructors and professors and mentors, and I just wanted to kind of share what I've learned. I did a lot of learning up at Penland School of Crafts, and it's a very community-based situation where there is an instructor that comes in, but then everybody in the class is also welcome to share their knowledge. And I really enjoyed that kind of learning, and it makes you want to also share what you know. And that's what I try to do in my class. I try to build community, and I share with them what I know. And then very often I learn from them as well.
Well, I guess that also goes into play when we're talking about, like, do you find it kind of difficult to make time for your own projects, if you have any, while also kind of assisting and giving feedback on your students' projects?
Yes, yes, I do find that is difficult. you know, when I'm in the classroom and when we're in the studio, I don't really do my work there. I have a separate studio at my house. Um, but it is, it's definitely a difficult balance to try to be successful and be there for the teaching aspect, and then also be able to make my own work. This past, well, not the past year because of COVID, but before that, I had really started getting some studio work done, but it's definitely difficult to find time to do both, and even more so now because of the situation. Teaching hybrid is a whole new thing.
Right.
That has made it even more difficult.
I know we've talked a bit about, like, personally how it's been difficult kind of having such a small relative like class size while also trying to get the same feedback to a lot more people than you get to actually meet with in person.
Yeah, so it's an interesting balance. So our classrooms, our studios are small, and so they, of course, well, like everybody else, they split our classes, and so I only have half my students on each day. And in a way, it's great because there's only, you know, there's such a small number of people that you can really interact with them one-on-one. But the downside to that is that you only see them once a week. And it's just, it's been a learning curve for sure, to try to figure out how to navigate that. I am happy that we are hybrid and that I do get to meet with the students, because it's not just telling them how to do something. You have to work on one-on-one with each individual student to learn, you know, how they learn and how they make art. And it's the one-on-one conversation gives you more information than just if they understand what they're doing or not.
Right.
And it helps you to be able to realize how you can help them, because it's different for each student. And and so in that respect, I'm so happy that we are able to meet in class even for that short amount of time.
I'm sure they appreciate it as well. On the flip side of things, when you're working on your own pieces, do you have any sort of real process that you follow? Like, how do you work when it comes to making your own pieces, and has this process changed at all over time?
Well, yes, yes and no. I mean, in a really general sense of how I work, I am a planner. And so I will make a plan, you know, what kind of materials I need, where do I need to gather them, and just work through a process, you know, once after I have my initial idea of what I want to do. Within that, for probably the past 15 years, I've been doing large scale installation work. And that work, I design it on a CAD program on the computer, and I can prep a lot of the brackets and preliminary things. But the work itself, it's site-specific installation, and it's not completed until it's actually hung up in the space where it goes. So that has a very specific way that I do that, because, you know, I can only do so much, and then I have to do it on site. But recently, in the past probably year and a half or so, I've been working on this new series, and the work that's in the exhibition is part of this new series of work, where I'm using recycled t-shirts and deconstructing them and then reconstructing them into interactive wearable sculpture. And this is a whole new thing for me, because I can actually do all the work before it goes into a show, which is a new experience for me. I can really kind of identify what it's going to look like, and put more planning into it from that angle than I can with the other work.
Because yeah, in relation to the piece that you submitted for this show, I know it was originally not what it is now. It was originally something else. So you titled it Together Apart. So if you could just kind of give our audience a little bit of background on what exactly the piece is, if you could kind of describe it in a way.
Sure. So, you know, a couple of years ago, I started working on this project, where I was taking these t-shirts apart, and then I'll put them back together, and they make these kind of neck pieces. And my thought was, I'll make a bunch of these neck pieces, and then I'll connect them all together, and we'll have this big kind of happening performance where, you know, hundreds of people will get into this thing, and we'll all be together, because there's so much division right now among people. And it's, you know, any way that you can bring people together, and physically bringing people together forces conversation, and it forces people to communicate. And this would be kind of a fun way to do it. You're in this multicolored, crazy, wearable piece of sculpture. So I was thinking that would be a way that I could bring people together. But then COVID happened and people don't want to be near each other, and they shouldn't be near each other, or at least not as close as that piece would have brought people together. And so I started thinking about it one day, and I took a couple of the neck pieces and created an extension between them that is 6 feet apart, or approximately the 6 feet apart. You know, like how far we're supposed to stay apart from each other now. But then I still connected them. And so the one that's in the gallery has 5 neck pieces. And so, you know, 5 people could get in that, and they could be close and be connected in this kind of physical way, but then they would still be separate, as, you know, and apart as we need to be now. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that, you know, you can interpret that and think about that. But that's the basic idea, is trying to find some kind of togetherness. And even now, when we have to be apart, we still need to be together, even though we can't be as physically close.
Because to me, the layman, the message is still there to me. I still kind of get that same, even if we are 6 feet apart, we can still be connected in that way. And I think you conveyed that very well with the piece you brought in for this gallery. And I suppose my next question is there any kind of, is there anything in particular that you kind of draw inspiration from with a lot of your work, or is it just kind of whatever is striking you at the time?
You know, I think it's just different influences from all kinds of places. You know, the news and my reaction to things that are going on in the world, you know, really is kind of driving my concept right now. The process that I use for this new series of work, I just happened to take a class where they were doing this process. I had been doing it's called a knotless netting, is what it's called. And I had been doing a different netting process, and then I learned this, and it allowed me to work like 1,000 times faster, which was really great. And it's, you know, it's just kind of a mix of, you know, I'm pulling something from over here, this process I learned, and then I have this idea over here based on, you know, different concepts and how my concepts are evolving. Because even my installation work is very much about interrupting our personal space and kind of forcing people to pay attention and react to the space around them and the people that are around them within that space. So a lot of my work has that interpersonal kind of base to it.
There's a lot of mindfulness that goes in play. When you talk about like the creative process to making like an idea a reality, whether that be for your works or when you're watching students kind of come up with their own ideas and turning them into a reality, what's your favorite part about that creative process? What is just so enjoyable to you?
Well, within like my classes, one thing that I always find amazing is, you know, throughout all the classes, there'll be a set project, and it'll have set parameters, and everybody's ideas will be different, like so different. And it's always amazing, you know, I mean, it's like really different when they're really kind of restricted by, especially, you know, in the earlier classes, they're restricted by materials, and they're restricted by size, and, you know, and there's all these restrictions. and everybody's looks totally different. It's amazing. And then of course, as they move forward, I remove more and more parameters because it becomes more and more about they need to start identifying what they want to make work about and how they want to make it and what materials they want to use and that kind of thing. But it's just always amazing how different people can just take, you know, an assignment and do something. I don't know. I'm always amazed because they're all different.
You mentioned it being like they kind of have these parameters, which to me like that feel very constricting, but I guess they can see it as more being resourceful and kind of making do with what they're given. And you know, that is also very impressive to me, that you can make some crazy things with very limited materials, resources, whatever you have just available to you.
But yeah, I mean, that's really the thing though, you know, the creativity and that's the key. Like that's the important part. If you can have the same limitations as everybody else, and then you make something that stands out, then that is your creativity. Those are your choices that you made personally that really pushes it to be something amazing.
Even now, do you find that there are things that you can improve on, whether it be like with teaching or creating works?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's always room for improvement. I was actually just talking to my students the other day because I will update my projects pretty much every semester depending on feedback from the students and kind of the success rate of the work that comes out with varying projects. And so in that respect, I'm always changing something. And hopefully it's moving towards the better. Although sometimes I'll change it and then change it back because, you know, it didn't work like how I thought it was going to. And that is, again, particularly now, I've been coming up with a lot of new projects and changing old projects to be able to fit, you know, the fully online like we were back in the spring and now the hybrid. But yeah, it's always changing. And I always, not just the mechanics of the projects, but sometimes I just change the projects just so, you know, to add a little something new and a little something different to the classes.
Right. What's some of the best advice that you've been given? Because I know you've mentioned having some wonderful instructors in the past, and is there any of their words of wisdom have really stuck with you?
Well, two things really. I had a great professor in grad school who, when we came into her class, we had to check in with the time clock. She had one of those old school time clocks where you'd put your card in and it would check you in. And then when you were done, you had to check out. And her point to us was, being artists is our job. And we need to act like it is our job, and we need to put that much work into it, and we need to express ourselves when we're talking about it like it is our job, because it is just like any other job. And that really stuck with me, you know, because artists a lot of times do not get the same respect as other folks in other professions. And we're professional people. We go to school and we learn what we learn and learn how to do what we do. And that's always really stuck with me. And even this semester, several times I've talked about, you know, that. And then my personal piece of advice that I like to give students is to say that nothing is impossible. You know, because a lot of times I'll run into a student saying, well, you know, I don't think I can do that. I don't know if it'll work. And, you know, that seems like it's not going to work. It's impossible to do. And my response is always, you know, nothing is impossible. You just have to find the way to do it. And I mean, some things are way harder than other things to do, but you can try. And even if you don't get exactly what you need, you can get close. But to set yourself up to believing things are impossible, that's a slippery slope.
And you actually went ahead and I think answered my next question very well, in that I was going to wonder if you had any words for aspiring artists that might be interested in pursuing a career in art. Would you just kind of reiterate that to them as well?
Yeah, I mean, I just say do it, you know, with any profession. I mean, not just art, but if you are driven to be an artist, then you should do that. If that's what makes you happy and you enjoy doing it, then you should do that. And that goes for anything really, but um, it's doable. People make living as artists, people make their livings as in all kinds of art fields. This show actually is a great example of that. Two of the artists in there are working artists. Another artist that is in the show has a floral business that is based in sculptural floral arranging. You know, there's all kinds of ways. Actually, there's more artists than that in there that are, you know, working artists using their skills. I mean, it's really amazing, and you can do it. And you know, again, it goes back to the idea that a lot of times people don't think that you can make a living as an artist, and people don't think it's a good choice, but it is. I mean, it's just like anything else. If you put your heart behind it, then you're going to be successful at it.
Absolutely. And I suppose to end it, I have a more of a fun question that is more for me. I just wanted to ask, what superpower would you have and why?
Ooh, superpower. I would want to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Teleport anywhere I wanted to go. So I could be in one place and then be in another place immediately.
Save a lot on travel.
Oh my gosh, that would be so great.
Well, thank you, Andi. Thank you so much for meeting with me today and helping everyone at home get a little more insight into what makes what you do and what you continue to do so fascinating and inspiring.
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done with the gallery. It looks great. Everybody come to the show.
Of course. Honestly, you came in and you wanted all the information yourself and you started kind of putting it together for me in a way, which was wonderful for me. I mean, I didn't have to do much of anything because you just kind of went in there and set it all up more or less single-handedly. But yeah, I'll let you go now. I know you're very busy, and thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So for those at home or watching on your phone, if you like this talk and would like to see more, please head over to our UNCW Campus Life YouTube channel, where you can find all our artist talks and virtual galleries there. Included in the description of this video in particular, you can find the link to the 2020 Teaching Award winners, where you can see for yourself the teaching philosophy and methodology Professor Steele employs in her work. Be sure to swing by the gallery in person if you are able. It'll be open whenever the Fisher buildings are open from October 2020 to early February 2021. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching.